missing someone. Love with all your heart. Missing someone. Love with heart.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren. For those of you guys who are new, I go by Locks by Lauren on Instagram, and today I'm going to show you a fun creative color transformation. This is my clients before. We always do some sort of like blue or purple creative color on her, and today she wanted to do more of a blue tone. She kind of sometimes refreshes her color at home with some Arctic Fox, so this is pretty much like a faded purple of whatever she was refreshing at home, and we're going to be lightening up her roots and then putting some Pulp Riot blue tones on top of the purple. And I would say that this client probably comes in to see me about every 4 to 5 months to touch up her roots and then put a fresh creative color tone. So today for her roots, I'm going to be lightening her up, and I'm going to be using some Blonde Me. My first bowl that I always mix up, that's like right at the hairline and the nape of the neck, I always mix up a bowl of 6 and 20 if my client has relatively dark hair. And then all the bowls after this, I will just be using straight 20 volume, and it's because since that'll be like the first bowl that I use, I don't want that part to process too quickly. I want it to kind of catch up with the rest of the top and the back section of her head. So that's why I always mix up a weaker formula for the bottom nape of the neck. So every time my client comes in, I do weave all the hair that I left out from her previous appointment. So technically I am coloring the roots of regrowth that was from 2 appointments ago, because I alternate and catch all of the hair every other appointment so that her ends remain solid. And so I'm going back to back and just weaving her whole head. And this does take me a while to do. I would say to weave her whole head, it takes me about like an hour, hour and a half, depending on like how fast I'm going. But yeah, that's typically how long it'll probably take me to do a client, to weave them back to back like this. I feel like it's a lot easier to use this technique because I'm able to just like pick up the pieces really quickly and weave it, opposed to if I were to tease and everything. So even though it is time consuming, I would say this is probably one of the faster techniques on how to tackle roots or do a balayage, in my opinion. I feel like this works more efficiently, and I'm able to get through it a little bit quicker, because highlighting your client is the most time consuming in the whole process of the whole transformation. So since my client's roots are pretty long and grown out, since I'm touching up the roots that I didn't highlight 2 appointments ago, I am just laying a foil right on top, and I'm trying to be very careful not to overlap on the ends at all, just so that I can help keep her hair as healthy as possible, because highlighting or retouching roots on dark levels like this, it can be a little tricky to not cause any breakage. So laying a foil right on top helps the lightener stay in place, because if I'm highlighting and painting on color on the hair and it starts to move around, especially where the line of demarcation is from the light to dark, that's where you can cause a lot of breakage. So I try not to fold my foils when the hair is this long, and I just like to lay my foils flat so that everything just kind of stays put. But I do lock in the foil by folding the bottom and the sides so that the foils don't slip at all that way either. And since I'm picking up the dark that I left out last time, the last foil that I did on her, we did more of a chunky, so this time's more of a smaller weave, because in between my chunky weave last time, all the dark that I left out was pretty small. So you'll see I do like a mixture of like chunky and smaller weaves, but I just try to stay as consistent as possible in picking up most of the dark, so that it makes it a lot easier in the future appointments when she comes in. So as I get towards the top here, I do combine the two back sections into one for the very top crown section. And here you can start to leave dimension if you want more of a blend. But for her, I'm just going back to back because I want the color to feel as solid as possible. Sometimes I do alternate, it just depends on the look that we're going for, or if a client expresses to me that her color was a little bit too solid, or they want a softer grow out, if they feel like their roots were just like a huge black hole when it started growing out, then that's when I start to leave more dimension just right at the crown here wherever they part their hair. So the reason why I'm not taking a baby light on the top section here is because she naturally is so dark. So if I were to do more of a baby light on this top part, when she dries her hair and stuff and I finish all the highlights, a lot of the lighter pieces might get lost, and I want to see more thicker ribbons and make the color look a little bit more solid. So that's why my weaves are a little bit thicker and more on the medium size rather than the baby light, even though this is on the top section of her head. Now, as I get towards the sides, I do take these sections horizontally up the head. I find that it's a lot neater because if I were to do it more vertical, sometimes the foils tend to slip. So I do just take these sides a little bit more horizontal, and I am still just picking out all of the dark that I left out last time. Here you see some gaps in there just because the last highlight that I did, it was more of a chunky weave. So this time it's more of a spaced out smaller weave, and I always make sure that I grab a piece of the hairline because if you don't, she'll have like darkness around her hairline, and that looks totally weird when everything is all light. So I'd rather have it nice and bright all around her hairline rather than have like some random dark pieces. So I always make sure that I grab a piece of the hairline when I do the front sections of the head. For any type of highlight or balayage that I do, I typically like to make the sides here that I'm doing back to back and pretty solid because I feel like, to me, when the hair is laying down, this is almost a part of like that money piece. So if this part is too dimensional and too dark, you don't have as much lightness around the face. So I feel like making this part a little bit more solid on the sides here makes up and makes the client feel like they have a lot more color. If I were to do like a dimensional balayage, I would still probably do this part a little bit more solid so that it would be lighter in the front and then gets gradually darker in the back if I were to leave a dimension in the back for a normal balayage. So after I finished foiling my client's hair, the back foils were ready to be rinsed, and I let her lift to about a level 9 and 10 so that the colors can fade nicely and last her a long time. We always do a very vibrant color, but I do like to lift her nice and light so that she comes back pretty light, and we can always change it up to do a different color next time. But after I pull out all the back foils, I do let the front process a little bit longer, and then I only pull out what's ready so that everything can catch up at the same time. And then once all of the foils are done processing, I always like to do a really good shampoo. I typically will shampoo them with like the Pulpurite Budapest clarifying shampoo to try and get rid of any old color or mineral buildup that's on the hair. So after that, I like to do a little bit of Tokyo conditioner to help brush out the hair as well, because her hair is pretty long and we're going to be putting like a creative color tone on top of it. So I just like to do it just so it's easy to brush out before I blow dry her and then put on the blue afterwards. For her semi-colors, I'm using the Pulpurite semi-permanent colors, and this is just a direct dye, so you apply it on dry hair. I've already blow dried her hair pretty much like 90%, and I started to base her first. My root formula is Velvet, Nightfall, and Clear, and then the end formula is just straight Nirvana. Nirvana is the neon blue from the semi-permanent line, and since her hair has some yellow in it and I didn't mix anything else, it's just Nirvana straight, this is going to turn more of a teal color because of the yellow that's on her hair. If I wanted it to be more of a true blue color, I would have definitely added added in some purple, but we were already going for more of like a teal, like blue-green mermaid look, so I just left the Nirvana just straight, so that mixed in with the yellow on her hair, it came out like a dimensional teal color. So I went ahead and based her first, and I like to do this in sections when I like melt colors together, because I feel like the semi-permanent colors tend to dry quickly. So if I were to base the whole thing and go back in, it might be a little bit harder to melt the two colors together. So I like to do like a quarter of the head at a time, so that I'm able to blend the two tones nice and seamlessly. Then once I was done applying the color, I let this sit on her hair for about 25 minutes at room temperature, and then rinsed her with ice cold water. And then that was it. I already had given her a really good shampoo prior to the color service, so there's no need to do an extra shampoo other than just a really cold rinse. And here is my after. You can see how the blue turned more of like a teal tone, and it has a lot of dimension. You can still see some neon blue in there, but some parts do look a little bit on the teal side. And I love that even though we do a different color each time, it always looks very dimensional because of her pre-existing color, and however her color, the old color faded out too. So the root was nice and deep and blended really well into the lighter blue, and all she's got to do at home is make sure she takes really cold showers and maybe wash her hair like once a week until I see her next time. Alrighty guys, so that is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in, and I will talk to you guys next week.